I have Cecilia Abadie of LinksFit. Uh, oh, I'm sorry. Of founder of 33 Labs and Google Glass community leader, and Andrew Pritykin, who's a technology vlogger at leadinsider.com. Before we get into the panel, I want to mention we'll be giving away a special promo code at the end of the show, so stay tuned for that. So the first thing I wanted to bring up was this Crowd Optic deal with Pro Transport One, which is going to be putting Google Glass in ambulances. So I wanted to know what you guys think about the business community being open to adopting glass and finding interesting use cases for it. Whoever wants to go first.
You go, Andrew?
All right, yeah, sure. I think Google Glass adoption into business in different forms of the fields, I think is a great idea. A lot of the times in our current day lives, technology tends to be interfering sometimes with our day-to-day tasks, and with Google Glass, it allows us to still be involved with that and be a little bit more efficient. To hear that Google Glass is being more adopted now, even into ambulances. It's great for first responders. Sorry about that. I think it gives them a little bit better of an edge to get to a certain location that requires immediate attention, whether it's built-in GPS features that are in the background of Google Glass. And as other businesses adapt Google Glass, new software gets developed for it, and it helps for Google Glass in any professional workspace.
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in the fact that it's hands-free, and that provides a unique opportunity for people that actually have to get their hands dirty, like EMTs, people in construction, who need access to things like reference material or communication, and they can't use their hands. So I think that's a great opportunity for it. What do you think, Cecilia?
I was gonna say kind of the same thing. Starting with the point that it is a hands-free device, probably the best hands-free device out there ever. So starting there, I think it would be an amazing tool in many levels. But I do see the health community, especially, very, very interested in this device because it provides the hands-free, but it still provides the contact with the patient or the situation at hand. So that's very important. I've tried other devices like Epson Moverio, okay, and it's just really, it's a great screen for other uses. But when you're talking about having a patient and interacting with them and very quick find some facts and going back to the person and having a dialogue, Google Glass really excels. So I actually am speaking in a little conference on Friday that is exclusively talking about wearables, and it's almost Google Glass. The whole thing that doctors in health are going to be talking is Google Glass, because they are the vertical that are most excited, and I believe it's for two reasons. One is for them a $1,500 device is a very reasonable thing. So when you are in the medical field, devices are expensive, and they're used to these. And on the other hand, it really provides an amazing value in many aspects.
Well, yeah, that's true. $1,500 is actually very cheap for a professional device. And I think the only impasse is use cases have to be HIPAA compliant. I know there's a whole Google Glass community that's devoted to developers in the medical field who are trying to make sure that it gets through those hurdles and gets to the people it needs to.
It does have that extra level of complexity because of HIPAA complaint, and it's a very debated issue, like you say. For instance, the medical community was using Google Hangouts inside Google Glass, which is used to be a built-in feature, but that feature, they were abusing it a little bit because it's not right for HIPAA, for instance. So you have to have a lot of encryption considerations, mostly, for the most part.
So what other professional uses do you guys see for Glass?
I know what I've personally seen is a few people within the real estate industry, they actually do walk-in tours around the Google Glass. Also, when it comes to the automotive industry, whether it's reviews or technicians that are actually underneath the car, they're able to still communicate. And I know previously, before, when they used to have video conferencing with Google Glass, they would send a live video feed back into to the dealership where a customer would be. Basically keep the customers out of the the workshops where the cars are for safety reasons. But like I said, real estate's a huge growing topic when it comes to Google Glass. Education is huge, whether it's built in classrooms, even Google themselves have virtual tours at either the Bronx Zoo. Whatever your horizons are, there's definitely a use case for glass, definitely because it's a heads-up display, it's hands-free in any work field. Even, being us as developers sometimes, the fact that we can get notifications and not be disrupted from things that we're doing if you're in the middle of something. So, yeah, that's just from off the top of my head, but I know there's a lot more different use cases within different professions using Google Glass.
I got a lot of interest from like the agricultural industry, like when people are out in the fields, and it's very similar to a doctor. So they want to know, they're looking at a lot of, and they need to know what's the previous cultives, how much was spent so far in this particular piece of land, what's the expectation, how the weather would be in that context, and put everything together, and then they can do like a prescription. What do they recommend? What kind of treatment is ideal for that situation? And they can even have an access to the different cost of things, because in the end, it's all when it comes to fields, it comes to the cost of how much you can put more in there than what you're going to get out of it. So all those very valuable information to have in real time, and everything that any profession that is on the go. For instance, someone that is out there doing a home inspection. Well, that's perfect, because they could follow through a list of checking things and say, yeah, I checked the kitchen, I checked the plumbing, I checked the electricity, So, and they can put their notes there, so they can build a report much faster when they finish the home inspection. Before, they used to have all these hours that they have to go and write what happened, what they found, what the findings are, because they have everything in paper and notes. And they can talk all these things, and then they pretty much have a dictation at the end of what's the report. And they can even include pictures. So there's been also, by wearable intelligence, they bring up people that are working out in the fields, like if you're working on the oil fields, and they have all these things that you have to fix. So anyone that is out there with a series of tasks that they have to accomplish, I believe that's ideal. Another area we worked in the past, we've been working in the past before, was just Android mobile on warehouses. So on warehouses, sometimes you have a picker. So the picker is the operator that has to go and they have an order with all these items, and they have to go and find item number 1, find item number 2, and put it all together so it can be shipped. And this is a perfect tool, because before we were giving people tablets and they had to kind of put them in a pocket, and now with Google Glass, they just have the hands-free, they talk to it, and it really makes it much easier.
Yeah, hands-free is definitely what makes it unique amongst all the products that I see out there. You were saying, Andrew? Okay.
Yeah, I think just the one word that I would say that when it comes to Google Glass and just in the professional field is efficiency, and it does make everything more efficient, because it's hands-free, it's easy to use, and there's a lot of use cases for it, whether it's taking notes, adding pictures, voice dictations.
Absolutely. Have you guys seen Google's PR exec, Chris Dale, finally speak out about Glass and what they intended? I think he used the word live laboratory to describe the way that they launched the product. What is your take on that? I think it was overdue that he said something, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. It was a little later than it could have been, but the explanation is very right. They could have chosen to be behind the scenes and building this product, to one day come to the public and say, in a very illuminated way, we're up here and we know what you need, and this is your device. It's all finished. And they didn't choose to do that. They chose to bring the whole community of developers and users into the process. And you do feel like you're, in a way, building it together, and you're giving your input. And there's the whole social thing about this is a very new device in a new form factor, and it needs to be accepted by the socially acceptable. And that's something that you can only try out there in the real life,
Well, there was an interesting line about Kodak cameras being banned in public places in 1890,
Yes.
because people were afraid of being recorded. And you'd think 100 years after that, we'd be used to being recorded in public. But
Well, Well,
yeah,
well, Michael, if I could add on that, whether it was Kodak cameras, it wasn't too long ago that our mobile phones started to have cameras built into them, and that, of course, did bring some security issues and some awareness to those devices. But if you look at it now, to current day, people don't sit there and think about the cameras that are on our mobile devices. So just like Cecilia was saying, that it's just a new form factor, and the best way to give it a test drive is to actually bring it out there in the public.
And any new innovation that is interesting enough will bring polarization, will bring some resistance from the public. It's something that has, I mean, when you study history, you really find out that when the first time writing came out, like books, something that today is like one of the most valuable cultural things ever, was very feared. And so every new innovation has to, it's a good sign that Google Glass has generated so much polemic. It's a good thing. It's something that has to happen for anything really worth it to arise.
yeah, I remember the printing press actually caused a lot of fear that it would completely disrupt the current, at the time, power structure. And now we look back on that, and how could you go back on that decision to make such a wonderful
Not only
device?
that we would lose our memory, because before that it was all oral tradition. That people, even like Don Quixote de la Mancha, one of the most famous books, was about someone going crazy because they were getting into living into this novel world. I mean, so many things that were people fearful, because it's a human reaction. We have this resistance. Remember, we still have a reptilian brain in our, our core brain is reacting from the fight or flight response, and it's normal. It's okay.
So, but looking at all these developments, do you feel like the product is maturing and that it's past its infancy and it's starting to find its way in the world?
It's a process, and the process is always longer than you would like it to be. Yeah, you would like it to be already expanded in the whole planet for $300, and we're definitely not there. So in that regards, you could feel like it's not going as fast as you wanted it. But on the other hand, the community is still very strong, and the developers are still interested, and the industries are incredibly, especially in some verticals like medical, are incredibly interested. So that's all going very well.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that the product itself is maturing. It's not maturing at such a rapid rate, but it is maturing nonetheless. And the biggest thing that it's that is an obstacle, I would say, for Google Glass is the type of form factor it is. It is a wearable that is a heads-up display type of thing. It's not as easy to migrate over to as you would say like the Android Wear watches or all the smartwatches. But in the general retrospect of wearables, I think as it continues to progress and be put more into society, it will find its place. More importantly, as developers are continuing to be interested, you find better use cases for wearables, and it's only a matter of time.
Yeah,
price, you could say the price is the one thing that is probably stopping it from growing faster, and there's been technical issues as part of the process. When Google Glass was upgraded to KitKat a few months ago, that was a big setback. So that's part of the beta testing, that knowing those things is why the product is not out there yet. It's not ready to be out there, but and there's things like wearable devices like these watches, this one. Maybe they're going to do a little setback also on Google Glass, because some people are going to use these, and a lot of the functionality does overlap, although Google Glass will give you a whole set of new possibilities. So, but what it might happen is that it will slow Glass a little bit in the short term.
Yeah, I agree. I think the fact that there are different types of wearables out there, whether they're watches, some people are even trying to create wearable rings. The fact is yeah, it will set Glass back a little bit, but the whole point is that Glass opens the minds of other people to think that what are the possibilities out there in regards to wearables.
well, I think form factor is important for usage. So the watch has its place, and it might have a broader consumer appeal initially, but there is something to the evolution of this product that I think you can't beat a heads-up display because it frees your hand. It doesn't require you to look down at your hand. What do you guys think about the contact lens patent? Do you see that as the eventual direction for this product, or is that like so far off that we shouldn't even be concerned with it yet?
That is technically too far off, and I have good source information to say that this is technically very far off. For things that would include like larger displays, that is far off. So it will be used for things like what they announced, the diabetic indicators, things like that.
Sugar tracking. Yeah.
We're not gonna see these kind of device replacing the other devices like glassware in the short term. Actually, what I think will happen is the industry of heads-up display. It's very pushing right now. You're gonna see Samsung has announced something for September, October this year. Their Galaxy Glass or whatever it's gonna be called. I mean, what I see is a lot of other competitors coming into this area. So Google Glass happens to be the first heads-up display that you will see people in the street wearing it. You're going to find someone in your city that is wearing it because it's usable and it's wearable. It has those two very major components. But the industry has been trying to do this for the longest time, and they will continue. And now they know it's possible. So you're going to see a lot of new glass devices coming up.
Yeah, and one thing that I would say is that puts glass completely aside compared to the other heads-up display wearable devices is the community. The community itself drives the product, whether it's innovation or use cases. So because of such a strong community that we have, glass has gotten to where it is right now, and it will continue to grow in that direction.
That's an interesting thought, that a product like this probably couldn't be pushed by anybody other than, you know, the big two at this point, Google, Apple, and maybe the third, Amazon. And out of those three, Google seems to be best suited for this product. They're willing to take risks where the others might not.
Yeah, because now building a product is not anymore building a product. Building a product is building a platform and building an ecosystem. And in those areas is where Google Glass has been doing an amazing job. And the community, like Andrew said, for every explorer, they will tell you in a heartbeat that being a part of a community like this is the best part of the whole experience.
All right. Is there anything you guys wanted to add before I do the promotional stuff for the end? Any last thoughts?
Andrew?
Not really. All I can really say is that, you know, joining the Explorers program almost close to 2 years ago, it's really changed the way I've seen things, even in my own development. The fact that you have to now consider when you make applications on possible wearable design patterns, whether it's for Google Glass or whether it's for a different sort of wearable. So I think Glass, as more people understand the actual use case for it, and as you see it more and more in the streets or in the real world, I think that's where people will really truly open their minds more to wearable devices in general, and it's just a new era. So looking forward to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, I'll say that Google Glass, in the same way that it has triggered polemic and polarization, it has really captured the imagination of the people. You have to see that this is something we saw in the movies. It's something that we dreamed of so many years ago, and now it's becoming a reality. So there's a magical thing about, from the perspective of how the audience perceives it, there's a magical thing about Google Glass. So when you're as a developer, start developing for Google Glass, you get a whole lot of press, a whole lot of added value just because of having entered into this very special wave of new technology. So I really think people should look into it. And there's so many ways to be starting with Google Glass from any area. Like if you're a web developer, you can develop for Glass. If you're an Android developer, well, you can very easily develop for Google Glass. So there's so many ways to very easily get into developing for Google Glass that it's something that definitely people should be looking into, developers especially.
Well, thank you. All right, so I'm just going to go through this. GGDevCon is the first independent Google Glass developer conference featuring 2 days of training for anyone from novice to advanced developers. The show will take place on October 27th and 28th in the San Francisco Bay Area, just a few minutes away from the San Francisco International Airport. The event will also feature a Google keynote, panel discussions, and a Google Glass meetup. So the special promo code we're doing for today is GG on air, and it'll be good for a $150 discount off registering off the conference. And I'll be on Twitter after the show at GGDevCon to answer any questions the audience might have. And thank you again, Cecilia and Andrew, for joining us.
Thank you, and we see
Thank
you
you.
at GGDevCon.
Yeah, see you there.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Glass family.
And we're still live, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
We can say bye again.